In the 30 years after World War II, between 1947 and 1980, basically, Houston was booming. Economic growth lifted all boats. You could drop out of high school with a strong right arm, become a rustabout in the oil fields, and expect to be able to make a middle-class wage. And then the two big secular changes occurred. Number one, globalization. Companies can now produce goods anywhere, sell them everywhere. If you're doing a job that I can train a third world worker to do and I pay that third world worker $15 a day, I'm not going to pay you $15 an hour. And if you are doing a job that I can program a computer to do, I will soon be replacing your job with an intelligent machine. We are in a new world of growing inequalities predicated above all else on access to quality education. And so folks who were doing well, providing for their families with relatively little education, now find that those jobs have disappeared. There are large numbers, 45, 50% even, who are working full-time in the Houston workforce, unable to earn enough money to support a family, to lift themselves out of poverty, to provide the opportunities that this new economy requires. The whole rise of the knowledge economy has created deepening inequalities that we in America have not been able to address very well. And so terrible crises of affordable housing, of access to health care, of our failure to provide preschool and after-school programs that ensure that these kids have the opportunities to acquire the skills that this economy requires, all of that is now calling on us to act differently today. Part of what the United Way is helping us do is to identify what are the central needs.
When the cost of living is outpacing a family's earnings, we basically see that families are forced into survival mode. The necessities such as healthcare, housing, childcare, all of those things that many of us take for granted, they become luxuries in a lot of ways. And so families are really making decisions that honestly don't reflect the desires and the wishes that they have for their children, and they're just doing the best that they can at that moment.
In 2009, the United Way produced the first report on financial instability focused on ALICE families. So ALICE is an acronym for Asset Limited, Income Constrained, Employed. Most ALICE households have someone who's working and sometimes even two jobs. They can be often found in retail, tourism, hospitality, fast food, but there are ALICE jobs in every sector. Another defining feature of ALICE is little or no savings. And that's hard on a day-to-day basis. If you have something pop up that you weren't expected for, it really impacts your ability to plan for the future. And we learned a lot about who is ALICE during the pandemic with essential workers. Many ALICE families have risked their health to continue working, and many ALICE families have had to adjust their budgets. One place we see that a lot is families with children. They've either had to invest in broadband connectivity or digital devices that they didn't have before. And having those children at home has impacted many parents' ability to work as well. So expenses increasing, ability to earn income decreasing has been very challenging for many families.
I really think about two groups in particular, Black women and Hispanic women. And I think about what was happening with these women before COVID. And what we know as researchers is that many of these women were the sole providers in their families. And they were actually, juggling a lot of balls in the air. They had a lot of economic pressures on them. But they were also dealing with a legacy of systemic racism and discrimination that surfaced in a lot of different ways. A lot of families did not have wealth and savings to last them. So COVID just added more pressures, making them more vulnerable than they already were.
Being ALICE is very hard to get out of because once your financial status is perpetually unstable, your credit score is low, your access to traditional financial products is reduced, and you're in a cycle of being forced to rent because you can't qualify for a mortgage, you can't save up for the down payment. And one of the places where we really see the disproportionate impact is your access to borrow, that you're not eligible for most bank loans and so are forced to go to alternative financial products such as payday loans, which charge much higher fees, have much higher rates of turnover, and are far more expensive to ALICE families. So When you are forced between turning off the electricity or taking out a payday loan, you're going to do that, and yet it puts you in a cycle of more in debt over time, and has detrimental impact for your family's finances.
They're doing everything that they possibly can, and they're making the right choices in that moment. But then let's say they have a child who wants to go to college down the line. Well, if those parents are already financially constrained, then that child will likely have to take out student loans to fund his or her education. And this is where we start to see this very awful cycle of multi-generational poverty and multi-generational economic hardships. The American character is at stake. Everything that we say we are, everything we say we believe in, that is really what is at stake here.
70% of everybody in Harris County, Texas, of the 4.8 million people in Harris County, is African American and Latino. So that's our future. That's where we're heading. That's who we are. No force in the world is going to stop Houston or Texas or America from becoming more African American, more Asian, more Latino, and less Anglo. The only question our generation has been given is, okay, how do we make this work? How do we ensure that this diversity becomes a tremendous asset that can be as we position ourselves in the gateway to the global marketplace, and make sure it doesn't end up tearing us apart and creating a deepening underclass of folks cut off from the opportunity to succeed? It's a moment of truth, and it's a moment of truth across America. It's especially clear in Houston. We have the resources, we have the capacities, we have the people here who care about this city, who can make Houston a model for what all of America can be. Or it can become a place of growing impoverishment, growing inequalities, in a way that does not provide a picture of a future that you and I would really want to live in. And that's where the United Way comes in, as a major agency that can effectively open opportunities that otherwise are disappearing.